For me, I called it the snowball. We're going to reconcile one bank account. Oh, well, by the way, I have two bank accounts and the savings account and this and that. And you told me you would only do it for $150. So you have to get ahead of that in the very beginning, set your rules, stick to your rules, and only take clients that play by the rules. We call it rules of engagement. And we are a membership-based company. So all of our clients are members of the flight and they pay in advance.
Okay.
I have no AR.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be a good one. Our guest is a former U.S. Air Force veteran and the founder of the Office Squad, which offers back office support service such as bookkeeping and much, much more. Dida Clifton, welcome to the show.
Hi, very happy to be here. How are you?
Very good, thank you. It's great to have you. I would love for you to start off by sharing a little bit about yourself and how you ended up doing what you're doing today.
Well, at a young age, I joined the Air Force right out of high school and became a F-15 operations clerk. So I sat behind a great big desk and handled fighter pilots where they were supposed to take off, what airplanes they were in, and so on. So I learned how to do systems and procedures and the urgency of things that needed to happen to go accomplish a mission. Then I married one.
Wow.
And became a military spouse. Started traveling the world and supporting him in his endeavor. He's flown 3 or 4 different fighters, retired about 12 years ago. But along the way, I did a lot of volunteer work and I learned how to use QuickBooks. So when we got to Las Vegas, Nevada, Nellis Air Force Base in 2001, I started a little bookkeeping business from home. Put the kids in school. Dad was off flying. This was in the old days where we had fax machines and people would put ads in the paper for a bookkeeper. And I just started a website and started faxing my resume to people that needed bookkeepers, and it just kind of took off. That's how it got into QuickBooks. And then this whole Office Squad thing was kind of an accident to help my clients because they kept asking me to do more things. Can you answer the phone? Can you send a fax? Can you do this tax thing for me? And they started to sound a lot like fighter pilots. They needed support. They needed a vast array of things, and there was no business or national brand that did that. So I set about building one, and here we are today.
Wonderful. I'd love to know what were some of the, in early stages, what did that look like? How did you get clients? What were your strategies?
Most of the clients came from applying for people that needed bookkeepers. I would fax them a 1-page info sheet about me and how I was doing this differently, and I was insured and bonded. And back in those days, there wasn't a QBO. There wasn't a lot of remote bookkeeping. So I would drive around from place to place while the kids were at school, back up the file, take it back to the office, all of that good stuff. A lot of word of mouth and networking, because if you do a good job, the people are going to tell other people. So, and I was in the Valley for 23 years, so we built a pretty good network. That's how it grew, just by doing a good job, I think.
Nice. And when you're starting your business, were there, when you're thinking back, were there bumps along the way? What were some of the bigger bumps that you had to overcome?
Well, I don't have an accounting background, so I learned kind of by just doing the software and learning on the job. So learning what a debit and a credit was and how that fit into what QuickBooks does, because you see QuickBooks on the front, or any accounting software, you see the front of it. You don't really see the back of it. And we learned by experience and took some classes. But that was kind of my biggest hurdle was, okay, I know how to do the bookkeeping part, the day-to-day, mundane, put an invoice in, put a check in. I didn't know what a balance sheet was. I had to, learn what that part was. So I was literally my client. I know how to look at a P&L and I see that, but I never thought about what a balance sheet actually meant for years. So knowing what you're doing helps a little.
Yes, that's right. Figuring out things along the way is sometimes just the way that it goes, I think, in every industry.
Yeah.
How about things like, back then when the fax machine was rolling, the way people price their services? I'm sure today the way you price things versus the way you price things back then, how did that journey look? How did you figure out what you would charge and do all that business?
So part of the magic of that is my franchise secret. So I can't tell you all of it, but I can tell you that I learned that it cannot be hourly. And retainers didn't work for me because I think it was like $15 an hour when I first started. And I would sell 10-hour packages for $150. And it's just me, no overhead, no nothing. And when you tell a client they have 10 hours and they pay you $150 at the time, but then they give you 20 to 25 hours worth of things to do, and then you have to tack that extra hours onto the end of their invoice and surprise them, that's not a good thing. So I had to learn that those things need to be discussed in advance. It was like a snowball effect for me. I think it's called scope creep now.
Okay.
But for me, I call it the snowball. We're going to reconcile one bank account. Oh, well, by the way, I have two bank accounts and a savings account and this and that. And you told me you would only do it for $150. So you have to get ahead of that in the very beginning, set your rules, stick to your rules, and only take clients that play by the rules. We call it rules of engagement. And we are a membership-based company. So all of our clients are members of the flight and they pay in advance.
Okay.
I have no AR.
We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. Hey, bookkeepers, are you tired of juggling spreadsheets, chasing down receipts, and spending endless hours on client deliverables? It's time to simplify your workflow with Hub Analytics. Hub Analytics is the financial platform built just for you. We streamline bookkeeping operations so you can focus on what really matters, delivering high-quality results for your clients. With our easy-to-use tools, you'll save time, reduce errors, and gain deeper insights into your clients' financials. Imagine having all your financial data in one place with real-time analytics and customized reports at your fingertips. No more late nights, no more stress, just efficient, accurate bookkeeping that makes you look like the hero you are. Ready to take your bookkeeping to the next level? Visit hub-analytics.com to start your free trial today. Hub Analytics, where smarter bookkeeping begins. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. Nice. So you do everything. It's if they're going to work with you, they pay, and each month they need to pay something.
Yeah.
Nice. And how long did it take you to figure that out, that piece, the membership angle?
So in the beginning of this conversation, I told you about fighter pilots and how I felt like the fighter pilot was a lot like a business owner. And so for the first several years, mentors and people, especially my husband, the fighter pilot, would say, no one understands that. No one gets that. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, so. And then they tell you, don't listen to the naysayers, but, he listened to them for years. But around 2017, I decided that I was going to do it my way. I set the brand. I called it what I wanted to. I set up the pricing system, and I cleared out a whole bunch of clients that weren't doing me any good and started acquiring clients that were bigger and helped me grow. So
Okay.
just knowing what you want and not being afraid of what people are saying about it.
And what's the fighter pilot saying today?
He is retired and I'm working and he's not.
There you go.
So he's very happy.
Yes, that's very good. I love that. Well, that's fun. And so pricing, it sounds like you got that figured out. In terms of like the business, like it's been a while since you started this. I mean, when anyone says fax machine, that's they're still around, but they're rare.
Yeah.
But you've been at this for quite some time. Are there things that you think about where you would go back if you could have done things differently? I know that's some people say, "Oh, I never look in the rearview mirror," but then there are some learnings as well that you sometimes go, "Oh, we should have done this sooner, or we shouldn't have done this." What were some things? Anything come up for you around that?
The major one for me, and I think it might help your listeners, there's a lot of bookkeepers and accountants that can't or won't network. Won't get out of the office and go meet people. That's how you grow your business if you indeed are growing a business and not just a job. And when I started from home with that one little computer while the kids were in school, I signed up for the Chamber of Commerce, but I never went. I never went to a lunch. I never went to anything. I never participated. I just kind of sat around and said, well, I joined. They're supposed to do this for me. And that doesn't work. So as soon as I figured out that I needed to get out and meet people to grow the business, then it started to work.
Interesting. And was there something how did that shift for you? You realized it, was it, because, I'd love to know, like, what had you not go, and then what was it that helped you
Yeah.
make a different choice?
Well, when you're in the military, the relationships are there because of where you are and who you're working with. And even as a military spouse, you go to a base, the friends are there. They're like built in. They're in your squadron. This is the culture of the military. So when I got out and started this civilian business, I didn't realize how important relationships were because I already had relationships kind of built in with the culture that we were in previously. And so now I'm stepping off into a new culture, trying to build my culture and grow my company, and not realizing that you got to go meet people. They have to know, like, and trust you. So does it sound like LaTip to you? So I joined LaTip for a while. I did B&I for a while until I got big enough that everybody kind of knew who I was.
Nice.
And
LaTip, that's that one I haven't heard of before, actually.
LaTip, I actually did that one first, and then B&I. And as I got bigger, I would go to peer groups versus referral groups because I'm an entrepreneur. I don't like to be told what to do.
Right. Right. So LaTip and BNI, they're similar then, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
And were there learnings from those organizations? So you started with the referral organization, and as you said, you then moved on to peer. I'd love to know a little bit more about the peer groups,
Yeah.
what those look like. But what were some learnings when you did LaTip and BNI? What worked for you or didn't work?
Well, it's also part of our franchise model, so that when someone buys a franchise and they come brand new to this, that I teach them also how to network and how important that is. So to join the referral group is part of the franchise model. But because I was a bookkeeper, I usually got to be the treasurer, right? So the volunteer board. So you volunteer to be the treasurer, and then people learn that you know what you're talking about. You do books correctly, and so word grows from that.
Mm,
So you join the group, you become involved is the second step. You sit on the board, you volunteer, whatever it is, so that you become the expert in your field with those people.
very nice.
Same thing with peer groups.
Nice. That's a good angle. I've not heard that one before. where you actually, as a bookkeeper or an accountant, actually get volunteering and getting involved in the financial aspect of that particular group. It's another reinforcement of, hey, I do this. This is what I do, and I'm really great at it.
Yep. It's a good
Very
way.
cool. Nice. And then peer groups. How did you transition to peer groups? What did that look like?
Well, as my business grew and I hired people to do what I do, so now I have 13 staff members, 5 of them are full-time bookkeepers. And as I was able to delegate and step away from the business and start growing the business and not being the bookkeeper, I would join peer groups where you're in the room once a month, all day long with other business owners, and you're talking about how to grow your business, what are the problems. Sometimes there's some crying, so it's a group of your peers that you can go and discuss things with. It's a safe environment. In my case, there wasn't anybody around me that knew what I was going through. Can't discuss it with the fighter pilot. He has no idea what you're talking about. Can't share it with the kids. Can't share it with the employees. So you have to go to somewhere where you can go and talk about what you're going through with the people that are in that boat.
No, very, yeah, absolutely. And so you've got this military background, and I'm sure that's been very helpful in running your business. I'd love to know what things you took from being in the military to things like networking, things like your daily work. I mean, military, there's all these military people around you. And then as a civilian, did you work with military people when you started your business, or did you have to sort of adjust to working with people that were from the civilian side?
You have to adjust, and that's a bit of a challenge because when you're in and around the military and you ask someone to do something that's just done, that's the way the culture is. It's a very close-knit group. People will do things for each other without being said or told. So to be a boss of a civilian world, especially now, 20 years later, with the way that the employee-owner relationship has shifted, I think it'll turn back around, but my goal was hiring people that did what they said they were going to do and making sure that you find the right people. So when we hire, we do working interviews because I learned through the years that talking to them on the phone and bringing them into the conference room and looking at a resume doesn't really tell me anything about what they can do.
Mm.
So we bring our people that have passed the first due diligence in to work with us for a day and make sure that they fit into the culture. And I think I totally went down a rabbit hole, and I'm not.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Appropriate question anymore.
Definitely, it's always like in any scenario. If you could, go and if you're hiring somebody, work with them for a couple of weeks. It'd be the best job interview going. Yep. What does it matter what they say on paper?
Right.
It's what you see in reality that actually makes a difference.
What they can do, what they're willing to do, how they fit in with the rest of the culture. And then we have a 90-day boot camp. So they don't get a regular email. They don't really get a squad name or anything until they graduate from boot camp.
Okay.
It's kind of fun to walk around and people are excited because they're about to graduate from boot camp.
That's great. That's great. Lovely. So those are some interesting. What about dealing with clients? I mean, from the military, it'd be the same thing, be a different dynamic when you're, dealing with people inside the military too. Now, okay, these are your clients. They don't have a military background. You would have some differences there. What was that like?
I don't know if it's totally military background. Sometimes it's just common sense. But I believe that the business owner, entrepreneur that you're going to work with as a bookkeeper or an accountant, if you're working with those, not personal books, that's a little different. We work with small business owners and entrepreneurs. And that personality is a different personality. They have one mission. All they want to do is sell insurance or whatever it is that they do. they could care less about the phone answering and the invoicing. They just want to go do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that compares to the fighter pilot, because the fighter pilot just wants to go fly. Just give me a
Mm-hmm.
jet, let me go fly. So being able to support the business owner and understanding the urgency of what you're doing for them and how they react to things. You have to get to know what that client is. And we get some that are, a little bit ornery. And when they're ornery, you can be nice back to them. But if you play the employee victim and they are the client and you have to have them, then it doesn't work. I am not your employee. I am an educated person that knows what I'm doing, and you hired me to help you. Do you want me to help you or not?
That's right.
So it's
That's
kind of
right.
the way we do it.
Yes. And do you find that, I mean, I would imagine some of your training would have helped you with those conversations.
Oh yeah, go boot camp will do that for you.
Yes.
how to respect your outranking officers and understand what they're asking you for and how to make that work, that gray area in the middle, because you need each other, but you need to treat each other with respect.
That's right. And in your field, there is obviously systems and process that the military would not function without. I imagine you brought some of that to your business. Maybe share a little bit of how that looked and how you developed those.
It's changed and evolved through the time, but I think a big thing for me in the military, there's not one person doing one job. There's 3 people doing the same job in case one person is missing, right? So I've found that in the civilian world, people that do the job are very protective over what they're doing. This is my job.
Mm.
And that to me was like for job security. So what we do is we cross train so that there's never just one person that knows how to do your stuff. Because I call it the Susie syndrome, where you call to get something done at your bookkeeper's office, and Susie, your bookkeeper, is out on maternity leave or on vacation or out sick, and no one can do anything until Susie gets back. Well, my business doesn't stop while Susie's on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
So someone else needs to be able to help me. There's that urgent fighter pilot mentality again, with the entrepreneur and the business owner. They're not going to wait till next week till Susie gets back. This check needs to be cut. This invoice needs to be done. And that's why I feel bookkeeping is a day-to-day thing. It's not monthly accounting.
That's right. That's right. Interesting. So you have your team as well, and maybe just a little more on, I'd love to know how you handle the way people are. You mentioned it a little bit around the way people relate to the owner / team member, because the world has changed dramatically. How do you find your culture deals with that? You try and find people that fit with your culture, but have you had situations where you had to deal with, this is, no, it's you have to show up at a particular time, or this is the way we do things around here. Love to hear your thoughts on that.
That is all covered ahead of time. It's part of our hiring process that this is the culture. And that's why that working interview is really important. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that. Because it is very difficult to find people that believe in that are under 40.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So
That's a narrowing pool here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to build a business that people want to be a part of. And if you want to be there, then this is how you do it. And if that's not what you want, then this is not the place for you. It's pretty much how we handle it. Our receptionists up front are usually the younger group, and the ones that we have, I think, have found it interesting because you can really grow within the office squad.
Mm-hmm.
My current COO started about 10 years ago with me as a receptionist and file clerk. So there are so many different jobs to do in this business administration world that I've created that you could stay and do a lot of different things as long as you fit the culture and you're willing to work.
Lovely. So you find people who want to be there and they have lots of opportunity to stay and evolve, which is great. Yeah. But the pool is narrowing. Have you found that it's getting more difficult to find good people?
Yes. And my answer to that is going to be the Office Squad Academy.
Okay.
So that's my next step. I'd like to get a few franchises under my belt. But along with the military theme, I would like to recruit, train, and deploy people that want to do what we're doing.
Yep.
And let's say you would like to have a job in Denver and we have a franchise in Denver and you come to the TOS Academy and we teach you how to do it our way. And then we send you off to your franchise in Denver.
Okay, very interesting. What about outsourcing? Have you considered that, or has that ever come up? How does that fit into your experience?
You mean offshore outsourcing?
Yeah, it would definitely be.
Yeah.
I guess it would be a little bit of both. Let's talk offshore, but also remote team members, those sorts of things. I mean, you'd probably have some experience there as well.
I do. And I've had a lot of mentors ask me, why are you not building this remotely and just growing it bigger and bigger, the one company? And I actually had a conversation with a gentleman this morning that has done that. He does bookkeeping and accounting on a large scale. A lot of his staff is in India. So he and I had a little conversation about how that worked for him versus it doesn't work well for me. I tried the Philippines. I tried India. We've tried Mexico. And when I started this, it was about building business in America and hiring people in America. And that you could go see your bookkeeper if you wanted to. Because we're in a building in your neighborhood and you could come and see if you want. We have some office suites for rent. We have co-working space. And it's just a little place, kind of a hub of small business is my goal. There's even a bar in it. So coffee bar in the daytime, cocktails at night. But it builds that camaraderie when you're actually in the space with the other people that you work with. Our admin helps our bookkeepers. Our bookkeepers talk to our admin. Our management manages all of them. And they work together as a team. And I don't believe you can do that if you're outsourcing to somebody working from home. Now, I have a gal that works from home in Texas. She used to work for us. Then she got married and moved to Texas. And when we were shorthanded, we gave her a call and said, would you like to work remotely? So that we can do. She's a bookkeeper. That's all she does. She doesn't do any admin or management. So it's not like it can't happen, but it's not what I built it for. I built it for people that talk to people.
Very interesting. And that's, the thing. There's a place for everything in the world. And if the majority's going one way, then there's an opportunity going a different direction, and pros and cons to both ways for sure. But with this particular staff member, you have someone and you've built a relationship. That's a different scenario as well to just hiring somebody that you've never met to work remotely. And they're different models for sure. They're very different models. So it's interesting, very neat what you're building. And it's like the Main Street philosophy or culture of a Main Street. People come to the Main Street and they know the people, they work together. It's an ecosystem, and that gets lost in the digital, remote, offshore, outsource world.
Being a hybrid is awesome, because now, the pandemic kind of did a good thing for me and made people realize that you can do both. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where I think the franchises will take off, because people now will recognize that having this in their neighborhood, they can either go there or not go there, but they know that their bookkeeper is just down the street, and they're insured, and all of the good things.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, it's really remarkable story that you have, and definitely loved hearing about your journey and what you've built. If our listener wanted to learn more about you, what would be the best way for them to do that?
The best way is the website, and it's theofficesquad.com. It has a spot on there for the things that we do for our clients, and it also has a button for franchises, which is just starting to take off. So it's just a little bit of information in a contact form. Or you can email help, HELP, at theofficesquad.com.
Wonderful.
Or pick up the phone and give us a call.
Wonderful. Well, this is great, and really appreciate it. On behalf of our listeners, I want to thank you for your generosity in being on the show. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.